This is called tunnels. Broad, broad as the day here is, gives to this diction of wonder and snow. It is through this calm thing in buckets, I guess, that images such of the drift might find relief in the seeing of the drift in my head. At the moment, not, but for my head's picture to cherish as realist, unreal. Though I remember the child I was, that cast his arms forcibly into an angel for the sleek mass covering it in feet of that wideness. Once, well, millions of small tokens of what would never be again. Snowflakes, either one, dashing, bobbing, falling, disintegrating, hit the ground. First Battalion. Mostly this, yet in peace, a quiet fortitude of them. All these white differences hitting the ground, shedding out the sky's torpor into a persistent sea that I remember, and snows upon the haze, making a haze, and a making of movement to settle on the buildings, on the streets, settling on the haze of mind, down in the drift, the melody of the drift, the nice void there, and the spread throughout, and from the sky twirling. This chance to breathe. What thickets! There! In the white haze on the broad top of buildings, throughout once I felt the haze of mine own head. Follow the old friends, follow these dashing phenomena, friend, back and forth like their own unearthly, into no winter but one for the breath of snows, into them's. White shifty flakes there, dashing like breathers, happy friends, happy enough and lamenting, no snow today. But the image works throughout this narrow mind, speaks its broad statement in them. False flakes, them's wonders, them's beliefs in the shrug of that winter freshening. No winter of the mind, no season to capsule. It is all of a season of the self in the drift. Snows in the head quite caught in the flurry of snowy flakes. In their brief uniquity, to fail on the curb once touched. Broad ones, out into the snigger of some trellis, layering the nice backyard square, thumbs on the world to make us. Not ever, though, to cozen the fury, merely display the fury and serenity, wideness of its answer. Them snows in each flake, in each latitude, the complement to ether, relief, the snows. 2. The cloud in my hands. Imagery the imagination persuades itself to load on with care. Each furious goddamn load of things on the wheels, wheeling vegetables, to browbeat a thought the way into fury, enough to drop a foot in front of wheeling workers. Too beautiful. Too spacious, each beacon a pendentive sway in this the ill-wrought heat of knowing the graffiti installs. Exhaust pipes the piss out of buckets. Me to hold my breath at. For this I persuade indecency in a bald face. A welcome hinge on this gimmick of Hades. To wade far off or glue bleeding a limb, or 2, in the force way out the sides of the unsatisfactory, the carnival of clean space and the digits. was grit of self, and split in the way. Spit stomped on by another to stick. This one of ghosts is in the tides of no other but marvel. Just that, just a woe in the wonderful seen wonderfuller. Better, madly in the love of its catch. The messengers, the bleak post of diction. It is said the cagier for its love and equivalent hate. The snares of its possibility into those primed flowers not for picking, but in the tropes, no vindication. But in this, blameless, transitory guy just unfolds. Then see the spectrum rise indiscriminately. This imagery to beauty fled from there, goes kicking in spaces only to become flowers on Riverside. The block a beat to run on in gaiety towards the kitchen. This kitchen of dirt. You might get honesty, but not control in this result. There is also a point where the streets gut to the speaking of patrol cars, delivery trucks, thankfulness and a sign for lunch. Out of moles there in the areas between shuffling dogs on leashes, bikes riding, lost in a soundless traipsing with owners. And if once winter booms forth, the chasm decides it's through with being done with, and the subways begin to scoff, the people pacing almost to pinpoint the soul's litigation in the first snap. Judgment. Well, all's arguments. No law there but in the form of a benediction, in the form. Injustice done to one's bond with themselves. Nothing but a control over the diction I rouse too much of, for the sake of respectful sakes. The sainted pages hear no such nonsense, no such follow-through. Nothing. Through with it. And the revs in this exclusion of the clip of one through lagging traffic chicaby is there. Depth in the tired of depth. Soul's enough of it. No soul in his car, the one he drives his soul with. Beep, beep. Peepings down. The sun gives us, says, elusiveness. 3. NYC. Imagery too beautiful persuades indecency, and you might get honesty but not control. But there's also a point where the chasm decides it's through with being done with, and the subways begin to scoff, pacing almost to the point of a soul's litigation. No law there. Nothing but a control over the diction I rouse too much of for the sake of respectful elusiveness. And wherever the diction is a translation, has been, of the inspired imagery I have found always in New York. That I know for certain. The only name I've ever had, a figurative godhead in it. The disembodiment is a threat. To me is an ultimate allure. For who I is Olive Wittgenstein to murder with his language games. One who sees no image, but a general persistence of one is the elect image. No nausea in this. I never know what I speak of. With time the reason presents itself to me in a value, though that I now no longer even attribute to a general swirl of feelings in a vagary, a dream I had once about the sublime. No feelings there. No one knows, and they disrespect the sublime. I gave my penitence to the reading of writers, once the pains of my untruths were too plain. It was all a tunnel. It's all just a tunnel vision, narrow paths, cord to harp on in many ways, not the distance. Hunger too much, and one finds he does not handle. It should have been practically insatiable. But there is no harm in it. The subways. It's in the detritus, the whelm of the current, the tracks sparking, the release or wires of release. The chasm much simpler, just as depthy, because home isn't home. Home so wide it refuses explanation. In a man's death and the death of a friend, I saw his cancer. I took it for myself in the morphine years ago. But no hideousness. It's humanity. It's the current of wires. It's spoken tremulo. New York is a matter of refusals, come hithers and diversions of what wants approach. What blindness! And in the blindness of the diction I see in others, my neighbors, my New York, find something beyond enlightening. This place should needs be the Godhead, yo. It has to. It has to remind me at times that I've given to insignificance and love it. Care not about perceptions except those of a philosophical sort. This anomaly is the existentialism, though. It's the praise of an ability to think in the face of ill trivia, language games. Moreover, the ability to give weight to ideas. Because one does not worry of scrutiny in the sea of this nature, this lush, this brown collapsible, my eyes cursed with blinks, this trash, this lonely void has been a stranger void. And succumbs to the mores that generally institute in one who has finally relented to what he must give up in the description. Psst, no pronouns. That's anonymous. To not even care about who you are referring to because it is a thing. It is this giant cathedral, this strange, this New York, this living out of paradox and chiefest orotund. This writer has finally relented to the idea that an epic stance could ever, for a poet, be found in where he has grown up. Who's to save the validity? Certainly. Beckett. He knew. He knew the female shadow of his inspiration, lying there in his inspiration. To me, what I read at the birth of a man out of lovelies, dispersed, gone, done away into the tunnel of his travels, the murderous loudness, champions of self, and their withering friend. Anyone who reads him first, truly, and in the pangs, the delusive ones find a raving in that boom, 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 the flutter of music in the heart. Yeah. But who am I? Besides Rimbaud to Brussels. Not one to put his self in quotations when at war, yes, I assume. The New York I know isn't asking questions. The freedom thereof to pursue my lacking doom. No praise for one. No channels. No channeling but the channels. The tunnels. They go down 42. I used to go to Franklin to chill with a friend of mine whose father was in suffering. No sin worse, but in denial of the fact. I'm going to hell. Might as well relish this apocalypse in the grand soul bucket. I do love my bogies. But here's the thing. No fucking wit this time. Just say on. Just say it on to the masses. I see in my mind's eye. Recount a story of yourself. What do you see? A mirror. Disgust. Lament is anything more than a poetic trope. A mask. Has it ever only been a tribute to New York? I love that name. The lingo the same as poetry to me, always no mask. Yet, still I see nothing. Thankfully, myself. And I do not love my own. Rather love that one. Rather seem in the seeming to honor circuits quick of a welter enough, good enough, just to pry Because I cannot pry into others' lives, the lives of others. I can't. All the others in me and all the me myselfs and Whitman, my beauty that is beautiful, Manhattan, place of Brooklyn Ferry, honest girl in white, a passing, a solution, a miter pang of something in the depth of refusal. A worried thing, a domain I cannot sense, or else too much of myself would be exposed in view of the home that is a true home to me, my birthplace. I see little in the birth I've created, know nothing better. Feel it more. Cannot think I could ever relate to this immense personality, this New York, this chimera, this apocalypse, this revelry in the chains of smog. This a more transient place. It's better to tell tale. So why go on? Why perceive anything? Why is it that a person's person to them is not them? Why is it that that I cannot honestly speak my own story? The only one I haven't told. Erudition is my specialty. It is my soul. Soul, dyslexia, and evil. This needs more of a mileage. Honesty. But no time exists long enough for Dan to feel honest. He forgets. He forgets what he said that was. Never on purpose. Goldfish status. I'll leave what I see in this place, this wonder, for later. Not waste my Jesus. But now it comes. There's a shaft disintegrating tunnels with floods. There's a beacon out there in bullshit Jersey. There's a sense in the meaning that is beyond sense, and no definition is frank. None. Potency is. The finagled missives, the misereers and begging loonies, the nuns and the honeys, the moneyed douchebags, the curl of a head towards what I'd go gay for. New York. New disintegration. If what all is not what all of it is, how can all of it perceive itself as a simplicity? Rumbles, the darkened cleft, just for rats, and all this jive, this foe, this metaphysic, nausea. But in the memorandum, the fact I did not know all along, so I could do city god justice. So I could tame the wheels, perhaps. Feel the hermetic, the borrowing of spiel to spiel, like subways in the diagram. Circulatory system. The direction we go here is towards our jobs. But what if when the job is to keep on with the circuit, feel the circuit, feel it too amazing, put it out of mind, become clueless. New York. It's just for me. For everyone. It's everyone's just for me. It's the adumbrated Spiel ist carnage. Gets us all about ourselves. An uncaring based in caring. Anyway, an uncaring. Beautifully don't give fucks. I see all over the place. Any burrow, any stationed laps for 12 minutes, any collapse, any running of the motors in freedom. But one should give props for the lack of knowledge as to an experience of alienation in reality quite helpful, if you relate it to your home. Beautiful negation, that. Where I sleep I hate mainly. Going for walks in public in my is my solitude to prove the soul. And if a smirk comes across as a wink, should but think that a furious mutuality, beforehand too powerful to truly perceive. My neighborhood is a cerebellum. An intoxication of noise, an intoxication, a relief. A span records thus from what little relief is found in home. The value tremendous if one is homeless. I just went for a walk and said a word or two to the void, my neighbors, as they passed. They responded in kind, with a wealth of thank yous in their own language. The lunatic, on the other hand, will use this game too much and begin harping to no one about Satan for long periods of time. And it is then that what was meant to be subtle becomes a crude crazy for one who cannot take the language. No problem. I would have been like that anyway. Fuck it! At least my sanity will always be questioned. A wonderful, beautifully ugly veil. Reassurance wrought forcibly is too much for most. Me too, but it's not a commonplace thing to want friends who can pat you on the back. Everyone who is clinically insane is insane in the same way. Basically, it's just a form of mental retardation. If I was clearly insane, I would not be able to write this. But imagine me speaking it out in front of the cathedral near my house, where all the homeless chaps live. Maybe if I was reading from a piece of paper, it'd be one thing, but if I was just spouting this, it would seem much the crazier. Those guys on the stoop who have made New York their home are all prophets, who have given up their balance for the sake of speaking the soul of this place. The only difference is, I have a blog and time to think it over. The verbiage is done with. I'll just say not here. Not. But in an appreciation of my own Satan. My own mindfuck. Out of the way. Out of the way is an eke through. Human life. What? This place? Who's got it? Nobody, yo. I suppose I confused it with a religion of sorts. A religious god is scary as fuck. Puts all in his categories. God in home. Doesn't need categories. Is fine with whatever ones you choose to instate ugliness. Beautiful. And all the grit. No cliche but the truth. And that via some trite negation of irony, simply put, it becomes a few strands of wheat out the tire. Grit your teeth to the beautiful, the barren, whiplash, the taste of being, the being a taste of self. And all the narrow passages I have wended prove not to be but towards this, towards no explanation, towards an explanation, towards the gummy sidewalk, no streets, just atoms, no formidable, but in the words of this air I breathe walking down them, no hamster cage, no blank deception, and no relief, most of all. There's the soul. In insatiability, despite a few lines. But will this no further? Can anything of what Mr. Crane has taught me profligate be in a screech of tears of chance, layers of music perfect in placement and abandon, water for the soul in a drop tank, a minuscule but peep, but saying I should turn the corner for one end to the voyage, a caricature, a source of lucid frankness in the ugly masochism of relenting, as if one were relieving potency. Who does that? Who? Unless they would want to be stripped in the eyes of this Lord? Truth in mentioning as an outsider the vacuum of this God's thumb drums matter out of white and black snoozes, dreams concrete, an open mind abstract, a wizening too soon for youth. New York blazes its past in a faculty unknown to the highest prick of an ear, of a fear and similitude. We all wonder, why would anyone want to be like us? The best friends are strangers to me. The camaraderie, their depth I feel utmost. Truth beyond. In getting all this wealth for free. Simply in having my own prairies, my own delinquents, manics juxtaposing forms, manifold representations of this head. What symphony is this? Take your medicine, dude! It's guilt. It's the guilt of knowing this not for so long, only having an inkling of it. Only a phantasm. I guess I knew mostly the cordiality, without the blessings of the unity, and entering a brief knowing look. Beyond that, there's indeed a pulse throbbing to harness this respect. The only way I could rouse the God in this place to life. Only way. So do it. Do it well. Do it for others. Live the soul of this place. See it in a clarity. A wistful dose. A companion in all peoples. Unity is not faith in the God less, but lessness in feeling fated to speak it all. Speak it in tones, dial tones, a dangling receiver on 69th, calling for a ride in the rain, from thence to home. Before, cheered on by pedestrians, read some poetry on my baggage on the street corner, seemed to sync up with the vibe tailing straight out of masochism. No overt influence, but in the loveliness of the unkempt. That really, I only knew how to see a negation. The negation of a soul's breath taken haughty in front of the cathedral, a wellspring, hope, a dearth. The anxiety of codes from bypassers, thinking no one speculates, no relates. All peeps here do. In New York, a place of understanding, silent, mutual, never spoken, an allegiance. Game of prayer and relief from the game at home. A hovel, a big apartment, whatever. The best home is this natural, urban landscape. Faith in the search of all tears down the pipe. Summoning is involved. A fear I will not do my home justice. So speak honestly. Speak, for all us do not feel the martyr system. Realize what must be done to portray this amazement in imagery. To see it as a painting, made up of impressions, characters, ghosts. Everyone whispers under their breath. What you choose to hear is the vibe. All the things have been buildings. Reaching what? But that's found in accusation. Or the relief of someone letting you know they hear you. And this, for years. Towards the plain wonder. Towards the faith in the wonder. Towards wonder at large. That's the force in the pendulum. That's the cacophony. That's the source of this conundrum. That's the faith. Peeps raw. Peeps dead. Burning with tears too hungry to spew. But I like my soldiers. All I got is smokes. But now I have love. Again, confidence in the rhetoric of New York. Drops. The beat will. The dropping rain like a blast over the chasm of various skies. Various hinted well springs. Various dirigibles of motion. Emotion the agonist. But how is it that a loose control, like I used to, how can that be anything? Personages walking along. Tell them to walk along the brick. Tell them unknowingly. You can speak yourself to yourself. You can light up the poetry of this place. Perhaps I just need a brief outline now. The way one sketches a coronation out of blueprints. And maybe the sensitive trappings out of the ill light linger in some Morse code. Some charity towards the wealth of people at large. The wealth of everyone. Whatever self. As their head would put it, contrives not out of speaking their lingo. Their own comfort of personal knowledge, of commune, and no space here, no space but my own lingo, the lover my own, the lingo my own. No charity, no case of it, no it in the God of here. It's in the haze of the skies I look up at to avoid perhaps a shapely S, which I find more intriguing anyway. The skies, that is. No mask, no smog, only the high, only the greatest walk ever, only the laughter, only the system of speaking, only the Dane of what is new that's been around for some time. For pneumonia strain. It was here, wasn't it? I mean, it was this place gave us love, right? The world has always remained vengeful to be wild again, to dance again. Return to some deepness too deep for tears to ignore bloodiest sleeve. Old people know about it. People grow old, as always, as they always will. find themselves farther into the old, odd psyche of 2 points. The old and the really old work. Of course, it all started from some elemental purity, of course. But what became of us besides the snapshots we treasure from afar, if even from a length of time? This ripple from earnestness, with questions, surprising, considerately proportionate, though ultimately meaningless events, stacked like fucking cards atop themselves to greet the game of avoid. The ultimate game. The first people, and I don't mean the Jewish for once, for something is to be meant between the branches of the trees, picture of the moon, between a sky for meaning to return to them's wild places mentioned, from whence it was rifted to a mocking, brightly stoled. As if, yes, as if to heave out water from lungs already filled enough to yop the names in a fluid for the Hudson to transgress with, an inspiration pecking like gulls on trash. Such a thing to do, and so done by the lightest fanfare of a prophetic lie. Too prophetic, even, in being a lie. And great winks of cranes, multifold and eternity. The wildflowers go all shaken. That public masochism of a city. White greatness. Just enough to jingle like repetitive hell on the Victrola. Shit. Wake the culture! Why don't you? I mean, this place, our gifted home, is it not a culture of awakening? And not by words. Possessive words the most, because words possess. Possess whatever meaning they pull off, or no part of it. By some paying of to those who read a word of unity too much the greater sin, a sin of a keeping of what something was. But savages are sinful, right? They who knew the land, not even theirs to give, gave to our breath a new intelligence of primitivism, for us to bloody up with sleeves already weighed in the heart. How? From nowheres in the nights? Huh? Well, yeah, to paint and pale your face. I'd rather paint it for war than leave it polymorphously fucking perversed by too much loveliness to not intoxicate the richest man at heart. And as if prompted by tunes, them's artificial Europes argue the piss and shit out of life from by their own persnickety erectations, slowly arguing away the stink of life to dribbles on some passion anyways, started all wrong, by the native logic of those native, to wherever place came some dogged needfulness to cure, indeed, as well, for us, the painted people first, before then, spaces in branches. Garishness precedes reason anyway. Snapshot. That's how people cure them's pale faces, with feathers and beets for bread. And as always, a wild unity of all of man, you know, was there, before man, before a gender named the wild. To reap us, or to reap from the tears we shed all the water. Come. Enjoy this music. With me. Love. Know that I love thee. Thee in thine breathy ways. Breaths as tears. Tears full of water. So much as to each rid of water as of water from the lungs. And both supple as breaths. Perhaps the first ones in of air, most air, all flooded with drops of wicked life. A wicked life of wicked meanings, cantillated pornography. As if it all were choir, perhaps. Took for the balance to see well enough. For the strophes to sing it all back to the blueprint of bullshit Greek. Give 'em a chance. Will you? Just pry open what it means to be poor. To be poor, poor of spirit, swift of mind, mindful of what it means to be alive in spirit, swiftly, like a thing that is behind you, like a horse quickening step beyond the redness of the mane of it, the animal, the temple, dancing, the simple dancing drum. Give us this. Give us this hate. This the hate. And see your voice, perhaps. Rise out up the ruin from a ruin. Lesser ruin. Perhaps you know blues. Perhaps you know the bluesy blueness of tears. How angry that the tears are when they bleed from Bullshit Mary's sarcophagus. They shed themselves dry and even shed the dryness from remarks, even casual remembrances in place. Remembrances only in places. Place names. See? Slowly. Aggression rises out of its own frustrated need to remain succinct, as if one waked the wrong dad, the wrong voice, the wrong picture to frame it in a modern sensibility. Literature is anachronistic. Snapshot. And on the figuration goes, uncaring into the heat of its mane, goes the aforementioned horse. Bye-bye! And way beyond, out to some faceless master too respected to be horse and still be heard aright. The Whitman God, more than willing to oblige. The Elliot got somewhat busy with his taking toast and tea, thumbing through his calendar before bullshit Michelangelo with young Europes at whatever time, wherever. Yeah, pound might just well have chimed, "Tweak the invisible antennae, you fattest." Yada yada yada. Illusion and illusion. One in the difference, you say. Har har. Well, you are right, my dear friend. Har har indeed, Dan God. Probably you laugh at God, laughing at the words. Knowing him, you're him. Really laughing at yourself and at all and every rhythm of whatever complexes, conundrums, but serious all the while. Being serious all the while. Of course, in an attempt to hate to laugh? Quite the bummer, Elliot God. Moving on. I move while you do it. Yeah, sniggering at the coattails myself that you heard to a desired relic. Yes, the irritating drops of rain on breathing pave. For what tailed the feckin' coat? Filled with nice things, but not ever with dread. The coat that stole a goddess self, and for herself to drape. Her choice to drape in colors for the world to marvel over in the struggle, to both marvel and not dissect. Whatever sort of bygone, contemporary vehicle of remembrance you fuel, none beats the fuel of knowing your own coffin, if only for a short time long ago. And I the Whitman you want? Is this what you expected, dear boy? A life without gods, without relics. Sanest thing to me is that, after all. Stephen belched the words for me a while. You know, made no god but in the valves on the surface of the moon, opening down after all the blame to a world of dear friends. What have you? What of remembrance? Of literary snapshots, you know, each shot a snap at death. When all the words are words, as all words are but the play you make of them. Over a Shakespearean end to the rag. That's his own pornography. Pornography itself being a punctuation of the chaos less manageable. Illusion, snapshot, all from afar, as if it were a different person you bothered to make into an ever different picture. Oh, the sadness of us all, even the painted ones, the ones with a face at all, in need of no identity but in the listless woods wild. Who? Yes. Could think they have an identity that could match up the gallop of a mane with each studded gallop. Broom of an intellect most wild. Peevish little hell to splice morality and death into a wrongness righted by its clarifying succinctly, as if making to cheat the deck of cards. And of course the wind to flood in pitiful lungs, no wasteland, none here but in humanity. Humanity the wasteland. Sensitive, anti-Semitic, racist. And to slapdash too roundly. The pounding too goddamn hard. At least he has his Olga and her acts of beauty, whatnot. The dash by the verb of heels, with the verbs to a place and corollary, with an entrance and circumscription in the speed, with speed across an elementary field, obvious field, made us like denuded nature, made us like to be nothing less than what it is, was meant to be in that molecular whistle of that owner in his place, master, owner, in their places. And you say I speak of the horse, shifting his plumy tail, once settled at the lawn, as rains begin to dab sheafs of illegitimate grass beneath the hedge, and the hedge a miracle, a field of drops of grain, and the grain grass, just grass, and each spear across all the forsaken earth, a claimant, already a claimant, plucked, already taken by some crotch rot motherfucker, bothering to take his mistress Beatrice bullshit once in his own snapshot that she probably never saw. And by seeing, I mean remembered. I'm sure the birdie fellow would give up half his elegies to drift off to sleep with that fleeting glance woman, crossing opposite from Brooklyn, home to Brooklyn, and her never to be seen again, I guess, never to be seen again, once held in this giant water coffin. And all of us held by force in a solution of the lungs. Articulate / manic. Liberty. A liberty of self. Not democratic. Any self at table, really. Slave or slaves, to come to drive their own machines of blinking grief. Water boxes made of lungs welled up to dry, the voices dry as gallops, vehicular as horses on the strain. So what of Whitman? So what is what? So what if WCW wants to photograph his heartland from afar? As in from Staten Island? I suppose he thought his own voice would rise enough from shadows. Punctuation. As in seeing words on the page and thinking the page to speak to you in a fastidiousness its own of whoever silent author. Meaning marvelous. And still, the brain splits open some irrelevant machinery to trip us out of truer space. True space. Though less entangled in shadows. Yes. I suppose. Here lieth your eyes, bespectacled. Here lieth the look once you gave me, the gaze I thirst for, as if it for the first time was for every time. I hear those kind bluenesses rest the sclera, wearied, on the tiny boughs of each sigil. Well, what? On what rests you? What, my dear, owns you? What fuels this deathless gaze? Primed to prick, to seize and all derisive understand, not one, nothing to understand. No all in the words, no words to barricade, as barricade between the feeling and the feeling of a weakened sort, a medley, an obnoxious reverb, tinkling with effects imprimatur, each little feeling all the highest hedge of reassurance, and up above the hedge where a man lurks, in the lawn of green, where I sucked my primitive Jesus dry, and cross-hedged by some declaration and nods inscrutable of sensitiveness. Paraphrase most mumble times the table. Yes, a table exiled, mumbling out of furniture, a whisper of our times in the heist of wordplay? What talks you into dreaming nightmares nightly? What's there? Piss off and leave the ruling over you. I would have had all this time, tenderest, the moment's tenderest, the breathing sad, hard, yes, with doggedness, yet doubt, and the doubt keeping you haggard enough to even rest that wholesome, vibrant blueness on small and perfectly spaced fucking sickles and whatnot. I forgot where I led this poem. You led me there. I forgot from where I led this question. You led me there. You led me there with your eyes, quieted me with looks big as the Atlantic. Remember when I led you there? Remember when I said how it was like the less of looking at you? How hope bled sorry blood out of spirit wounds. Keep close. Who fucking cares, yo? Shall we furrow the bedspread? Keep our bad dreams in line. Care for the other as a way to block others out, not them who is good enough to give a stare momently to this lackluster king of lackluster places. Only you light them up with the sun. I am like you said. Yeah, I am there. And I only hope you notice a reflection of yourself. If only by being drawn in by my own fucking eyes enough to observe the entirety of your face in them. See the forgiveness. Know me, you. I guess all my poems about you amount to that. But whatever. If only I get you to see yourself well. Even if only by you seeing my muddy brown eyes well, and by default seeing your own in them as well. Give me the courage to undertake the whole of your fair spirit, soulish one, yes. As much of a soul as one could be a soul. Keep me close, and you will see your fairness in mine eyes. Keep close.